Hi there, Briar here again. So I know this is our third video in our series, but it's actually our fourth tip, our fourth topic of what we need to have in place in order to make sure that we have a long-lasting health habits and helping us reach our health goals. So today we're going to talk about nutrition. The key to nutrition is keeping things simple and consistent. You probably heard me say this before now, but the more we can be consistent with our habits each and every day, the more likely we are going to be to have long lasting results. So, when it comes to nutrition, we need to keep things simple. We need to make sure that it is doable every single day. And of course, we need to make sure that we're getting in all of the nutrients that we need. Now, obviously, we want to start things out with whole foods as much as possible. We want to start with having as much organic, natural foods as we can, things that are grown from our earth or raised on our earth rather than things being man made. So, we're looking for quality food. That is incredibly important. And we want to make sure that we're getting in all of those nutrients. Now, unfortunately, I wish I could say that we can get all of our nutrients from whole foods. Unfortunately, with the way of our world right now, we just cannot. I can't wave a magic wand and make everything nutritious again. But unfortunately, due to our environment and our population growth, we just can't keep up with quality nutrients in our whole foods all of the time. So, our soil quality and the way that things are being produced and the way that things are being grown is just not the same as it was even 5 years ago. So we need to make sure that we're getting in all of that good quality nutrition, not only our macronutrients like our proteins and our carbs and our healthy fats, but also our micronutrients, all of the vitamins and minerals that are essential to our body functioning at its optimal level. So sometimes we need to supplement our whole foods to make sure that we're getting what we need. Unfortunately, not all supplementation is created equal. We need to do our research. We need to know where we are getting things from, where things are being made, and where things are being grown. So one of the things that we need to look for in any product that we are going to be using, whether it's vitamins or whether it is adaptogenic herbs to help manage our stress and anxiety, or whether it is like a meal replacement, shakes, for instance, protein shakes, we need to look at where it's being produced, how it's being produced, where the ingredients are coming from, and how they're being managed. But also, we have to be very aware of something called white labeling. So, what is listed on our ingredients is not always what is in our products. So, we need to be very careful about that. There is white label testing, which means that a third party is testing the products to make sure that what it says is in it is actually the ingredients that are in the products. So you want to be looking for companies that do white label testing and third party testing on all of their products. So that's incredibly, incredibly important. So basically what I'm saying is you need to take matters into your own hands, make sure that you are doing your research to know where things are coming from that you are ingesting into your body. Okay. We also, obviously, when it comes to whole foods, need to be looking at where we are getting things from. If we can be purchasing directly from farmers, that is ideal, because obviously then we know where it's grown and we can ask questions about soil quality and crop rotations, and we can get lots and lots of details. And most farmers are very, very willing to give you that information. Now, sometimes things are grown organically but are not labeled organic. And that is due just to the cost of a farm or a company getting that label. It costs a lot of money to have people come out and test everything and make sure that it is organic. So a lot of farms will actually grow their produce organically without pesticides and herbicides and all of these other things, but they don't have the labeling. So if you can ask questions directly, that is amazing. Okay. Now, let's talk about family nutrition for a moment. I'm going to do a little screen share here because I would want to show you here. So when it comes to our children and introducing foods, when there is a new food, we cannot make children eat things that is, we can't force feed anyone, but what we can do is put some guidelines and rules around our food with our families. So having your children smell, lick, taste, or try a new food is a win. If they do one of those things, even if they don't fully chew and swallow it, that's okay. That's still a win. They are still attempting to get used to these new foods. Okay, letting your children explore textures, let them play with it. I know, my dad used to say, don't play with your food all the time, but we need to allow our children to play with food in order for them to, again, get to know it and make it more familiar to them. Making things fun, having dips that they can dip food in. My children will eat almost anything if there's some sort of dip. Telling them stories and rhymes, cutting things into shapes. Not every meal has to be Pinterest worthy, but sometimes that's all it takes, is making it a little bit more fun. Taking classes together if you have children that are a little bit older. I know we can't have friends over right now, but that is something that can help down the road. Having friends over makes a big difference because oftentimes our children will eat things if their peers are eating them. I know a lot of people who send their kids to daycares or who have meals at school together. They'll eat things that they would never eat at home just because their peers are eating them as well. Having little cooking wars at home between family members can be really fun. Whether it is a pastry challenge, like what type of dessert can you make, or making your own pizzas, individual pizzas, and seeing who can have the most ingredients on their pizzas and having everything laid out can be a lot of fun as well. So just using some imagination when we are feeding our children can make a big difference. It's not going to switch. Here we go. Okay, dealing with picky eaters. So first and foremost, we as adults in the home need to lead by example. If we want our children to be eating broccoli, we need to be eating our broccoli too, even if it's not our favorite food, right? Oftentimes having things on the table, allowing everybody to serve themselves can make a huge difference. But having those small serving sizes or small portions and for individual people on their plates, but having that group bowls in the middle, allowing your children to actually serve themselves makes a really big difference as well. And that way we are not deciding how much they're actually taking and putting onto their plates, but we are providing the healthy options, right? Having no reactions. Let's jump back up to the top line for a second. Having no reactions is important too. And that's really hard because sometimes we don't like something or we love something, but that is putting our personal taste onto our children if we're having reactions about those things. So having no reactions at all, good or bad, about our food that is on our table is our main goal. And again, that's not always easy and it takes a lot of practice, but it can make a really big difference to allowing our children to decide what they like for themselves. Okay, having a schedule, an eating schedule makes such a big difference, not only for our children, but for us too. Especially when we are quarantined at home, having the kitchen right there at our fingertips can be very, very tricky because we don't always just eat out of hunger, but we also eat out of boredom or out of habit, right? So having very clear times for meals, having our prep, having our food ingested, and then turning the lights off in the kitchen once everything is cleaned and walking away is incredibly important. And it's amazing, sometimes literally just turning off the lights in the kitchen tells our brain that that room is now out of order. That room is closed now for the time being. And our brain will stop thinking about food all the time, okay? Okay, we talked about serving small portions or group bowls. Let me just add one more thing there. Serving small portions and allowing our children to ask for more if they're still hungry makes way more sense than loading up their plate and then telling them they have to eat everything on their plate, right? Sometimes our children just are not that hungry. Our kids go through ups and downs and waves with their growth patterns of how much food they need. As they're going through growth spurts, they're going to need more. As they're going through like a stabilization period, they're not going to need as much food. So what they ate last week may not be the same amount that they need this week. So allowing them to serve themselves makes a huge, huge difference compared to us just determining what they need to eat. Okay, which leads us to respecting hunger cues. Yes, if our children are telling us that they're still hungry, then they probably are. Very, very rarely will a younger child eat out of boredom. They eat when they are hungry, unlike us as adults. They haven't sort of developed all of those other psychological things going on when it comes to food yet. So it is important to respect their hunger cues. If they're starving and they are going through that growth spurt, we don't necessarily know. And it might not just be a physical growth spurt, by the way, it might be a mental growth spurt. They might be having mental developmental leaps, which means they need more nutrients for their brain to develop. So we need to be really listening to their hunger cues as well. And again, that leads us to no forcing. We don't force feed children. They will eat when they are ready to eat, and they will eat as much as they need when they need it. Okay. Sectioned plates can make a really big difference. Some children, just like some adults, have very particular needs around their food and don't like their foods to touch. And as an adult, we might not necessarily understand that. As a child, they may not be able to explain that to us. So sometimes having section plates or on their plates, just making sure things are really spread out. Again, having those small portions can really make a big difference to that. Can really help them decipher what they've got. So even if we're having something, like tacos, for instance, having ingredients separated on their plate, and then if they want to mix them, they can mix them, right? That's up to them, but not deciding that for them all of the time. Okay. Lastly, kids need control. There's a lot of things in children's lives that they don't get to decide, right? So if we can allow our children to make some decisions around their food, they'll feel like they're back in control again. So that again goes back to like portioning their own foods and serving themselves. Huge. It's giving them some decision-making control about what they're about to eat, right? Giving choices. So, oftentimes at dinner, we'll have, a full plate of raw vegetables cut up on the table. And my rule as a parent is you need to choose 2 vegetables, or you just need to have vegetables with your dinner tonight. You choose which ones and how many, right? So giving them some choices is really important. And my kids are little. They're almost 2 and almost 5. Like they can actually make those decisions still. And oftentimes our kids surprise us with what they choose to eat, right? My almost 2-year-old, one dinner ate like 15 cherry tomatoes because that was his choice. And he thought it was hilarious that when he bit into it, the juices all squirted out. Great, he's getting in vegetables, right? My other son only ate mini carrots that day. That's okay. They're not going to choose the same things all of the time. And if they do, at least they're getting some nutrients into them, right? Piecemeal dinners. So like I was talking about with the tacos, having all of the different pieces laid out and then they can pick and choose. Same thing, with like salad, they can create their own salads on their plate. The same thing with making mini pizzas. Maybe you're making little English muffin pizzas. So each person has a little mini English muffin and then all of the toppings for their pizzas, and they get to decide what goes on them. Allowing them to feed themselves. Yes, even young children, 6-month-olds, can start to feed themselves. It's called child-led weaning. They get to start to explore the textures and the feel of things. And yeah, they don't really ingest that much, but they're starting to learn how to feed themselves at only 6 months old, right? We don't need to be spoon feeding our children all of the time. Yes, sometimes my kids still ask for help and I will help them, but they have to have tried helping themselves first, okay? So in our household, kids get to determine when they're eating. So we, like I said, we have our schedules, but if they're telling me they're still hungry, often they will still get food, and how much they're eating. Okay. And as a parent, I decide what they are eating. I'm the one who's doing the groceries. I'm the one who's doing the meal planning. It is up to me to ensure that my children are eating nutritious foods. Okay. All right. So if you have questions about food for either yourselves or your family, if you want more guidelines or help, please reach out to me. I will put my contact details in the section below so that you can reach out to me at any time. I'm here to help with your health and wellness goals, and I hope that you are doing well, and I will talk to you soon.